Where's Fielder?
He's gone to the dogs. Hello?
Hello, is this the mayor's office there in Sardis, Mississippi?
No, sir. This is the assistant mayor. The mayor is out of town at this time.
I see, but you're the man what's in charge, right?
Yes, sir. But I don't think he told everybody that yet, but I am officially. Yes, sir.
I got you. Well, somebody's been complaining about all them coon dogs barking down there, around there, and wonder what y'all were going to do about it.
Well, would have to be my neighbor, Mr. Dan, and I don't know what I'm going to have to do about it. I'm probably going to buy him some earmuffs. I think that's what
That might work. Morris Hardy, how you doing, brother? It's good to talk to you.
I'm doing good, Steve Fielder. How are you, buddy?
Oh, man, I couldn't be better. I tell you what, it started getting a little bit cooler over here. And that's got me stirring a little bit here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been so hot. Night before last, I think I was sweating bullets. It just got so hot. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, you're a little north of me, north and west. It takes me, I tell you, I don't know how many miles it is. I guess it's about 800 miles between my house and yours.
I have no idea. I'm right here where they hold the UKC Winter Classic. I am 9 miles north of it.
That is right. I tell you, I've been through Sardis. Yeah. I've been to your place for sure.
Yes, sir.
Me and that rascal Nubbin Moore are apt to show up around there every once in a while. And, I got to visit with you a little bit at Autumn Oaks, not nearly long enough.
No, sir.
You were there with your buddy Bob Osborne with the Timber Creek, right?
I was. We was kind of busy, but I had a lot of good friends, old friends that come by to see me from up north that I haven't seen in years. Yes, sir, I did.
Yeah, well, that's great. I did get to venture out there one day there and visit a little bit with you and Bob and with Ronnie Stark, and I don't know who else that you might have had around there. But I had a pretty good time at Autumn Oaks this year. Did you?
Yes, sir. It was good. It was really good. To me, I got there a little bit later than Bob and them. They had already set up when me and his son-in-law got there. Mm-hmm. But it was a good day. It was good to see all old friends. It was really good.
Well, that part's always good, Morris, for sure. And I think that's why. Well, I know that's why I go anymore. You know, there was a time I had to go. That was my paycheck. But I found out that there's a whole lot less headaches when you go the way I do now. And that's just, Nubbin and I usually roll in there on Thursday afternoon and just kind of kick back and enjoy ourselves. And that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir. I think I got there about the same time as you did. I got there late Thursday afternoon.
Right. Yep. Well, I don't know anything about the business of Autumn Oaks and how the vendors did this year and all. Did y'all stay pretty busy?
We stayed fairly busy. I think we've had better years, but we've had worse places too. Uh-huh. But it was fair. Can't complain.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I always, down through the years, wanted to see the vendors do well because, man, I tell you what, I'll get up on my stump a little bit here, Morris. Those vendors provide a tremendous service to our sport. Where can you go and find, number one, find stuff that a coon hunter wants and needs? You can't go to Walmart and find it. You can't go to Tractor Supply in most cases and find it. The specialty things that we use, and of course lights and all the equipment, electronic equipment, and dog houses and leads that'll actually work. If we had to use a lead, you go down and buy it at PetSmart or something. It lasts about 5 minutes. So anyway, go ahead.
What I think I like most about the vendors, all of them being there, is information. If you've got a problem with something that, like a lot of people do, say problem with a headlight, won't do this, won't do that, you can go to that supplier and he will be there and he'll explain all your problems to you.
Yeah.
Just like there's a lot of people comes to Bob with their problems about the Garmin system, and Bob is pretty knowledgeable. I will have to hand it to him. He's about as knowledgeable as you'll find.
He's a sharp guy. He's a sharp guy for sure.
And so they help you with a lot of your problems. They do.
Yeah.
And compare your products also. Yes, sir.
Right. Well, right there you got the items you want without having to order them. You've got customer service right there. If you bought, I'm sure if someone bought a light from Bob, maybe at the Winter Classic back in February, and something wasn't just exactly right with it, but I'm sure Bob would look at it and tell the gentleman, well, it needs this or that, or I can fix it, or maybe we have to take it back to the shop, but whatever, and you get it right there, right now.
Yes, sir. And you can also view all the new products that you see that's coming out. You'll see them on the internet, but you can't see them firsthand.
That's right.
You go to the hunts, you can view the new products firsthand. Yep.
Absolutely. You go in Walmart, sir. You can't even find somebody to check out your groceries or your whatever, or your Copenhagen. You just
yes, sir.
Not that I use Copenhagen. My dad used to say he never found a place dirty enough to put that stuff. That's what my dad said. And now I've just offended half of my listeners across the country, because coon hunters like to dip a little bit. A lot of them do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Well, let me
tell you the highlight of part of it. My old buddy, Ed Bates,
from my goodness,
Ohio. I broke the news to him while we were there. I still had I guess you call it the brochure from 1979 when Hard Time Spec won the World Hunt. I had all that brochure with every dog entered in the ACHA World Hunt, the handlers and the owners, and the scores that they scored during that hunt.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had all the cast winners, the elimination, everything in this brochure. I sent that to Ed Bates and for him to keepsake, and he was so proud of that. He gave it to his son Scott for a keepsake item.
Oh yeah, yeah, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Morris, one of the highlights of my experience over the years, it might sound a little unusual, but I did work for 3 different registries, and the last one being AKC. But when AKC bought out the ACHA registry from Clovis Stanfield and Harold Sisson back in the day there, they got all of the registration records of ACHA, the hard records, the hard files. Yes, sir. Part of my responsibility was to pay the rent every year while I was at AKC on the warehouse space that housed those records. And I went down to the warehouse and opened those boxes and looked at all those files and looked back and saw those Hard Time Specs and that Merchant's Bali and all those different dogs that had won the ACHA World Hunt or were, in fact, registered with ACHA. That is a piece of history that AKC now owns it, and I don't know what they've done with it since then. Since, I haven't been there since about 2010, 2011, but that was a real rush for me to be able to look back and see all those registration records.
Yes, sir. That was great. That was a good idea. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It was good to see those.
Yeah. Well, Ed, was Ed at Autumn Oaks this year?
Yes, sir, he was.
Oh, I didn't get to see him.
Yeah, they were. I don't think they fared a lot. They won a cast or two. He has a English female red tick. I forget what the dog's name is, but I think Scott was handling it for him. Yes, sir.
Well, we can remind the listeners here that may not know it. Ed Bates was probably best known for the dog Hard Time Speck. And the interesting thing about Speck was that he was an English dog, made Grand Night champion, and then, he was first a Walker dog and made Grand Night champion in UKC. And back during that time, after the Walkers split out from the English breed, and so did the Blue Ticks, UKC permitted the transfer back into the English breed for dogs that maybe tended to meet the English standard better than they did either the Walker or the Blue Tick. And of course, true to his name, Speck had some ticks on him.
And he threw specked up puppies, the puppies that he threw. Calvin Hayes, Ed Bates' long-time friend there from Ohio, Mount Orab, bought Speck from, I don't know the guy's name, but I think he came out of Kentucky. And Calvin bought him, and then he sold him to Ed. And that's where the Hard Time line comes in.
Well, I grabbed a sip of coffee on you there, Morris, but got a little tick there in my throat. But yes, absolutely. And so Ed then transferred, either Calvin or Ed did, I don't know which one did it, but they transferred Speck back into the English breed, and he made Grand Night champion again. So go ahead.
Everything seemed like the Speck, the puppies that he threw, would be ticked up like an English dog because he was ticked up. I owned a puppy out of him, I think, before they transferred him to English. I had a pup out of him. It looked like an English dog. It made a good dog.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing that always kind of impressed me, and not to criticize the other breeds.
No.
But the English people they didn't care what color they were, whether they were ticked or spotted or blue ticked or red ticked or whatever. They did say no brindle or no solid color dogs, but they weren't as strict on color as the other breeds were. And I think because of that, it enabled them to concentrate more on what the dog was capable of doing in the woods without worrying so much about those things.
I think you're all right. Yes, sir. Yeah. But that's in reality, that was a lot of crossbred dogs, if you want to call it that, Walker and English. But that made some awful good hounds when they started breeding Speck to these good English dogs. I think the female had a lot to do with it. But they came out with some really good dogs out of that time.
Oh, I'm sure they did, and I can remember some. And back in the day, the English breed has always been pretty strong. Of course, being the foundation breed for the Walker and the Blue Tick. But I think of so many of those really strong dogs that were back there. Boyd's Little Joe. I think of him, an English dog there. I think of Dickey's junior dog, R.F. Dickey over in Alabama, which that was a Walker and red tick cross dog.
Right.
There. Yes. So being able to have that more flexibility in their stud files, I think, and a little more levity, a little more tolerance, I guess, for different colors, really helped the English breed, I believe.
I think it did. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it helped them. Yes, sir. I really do.
Well, speaking of that, before we get too carried away here, I want to tell, I don't imagine there's any coon hunter that's been around very long that hasn't heard of you, Morris, but let's do a little bit of background on Morris Hardy. You were born there in Sardis, Mississippi?
No, sir.
Tell me.
I'm a Delta rat. I was transferred from the Delta, and some of them call me a river rat because I was raised right close to the Mississippi River.
I got you. You didn't see Mark Twain come down through there on the steamboat, did you? When you
my eyesight wasn't good enough to recognize him. I didn't really know who that was when he came down. No, sir.
I hear you. All right. So, what town were you born in?
I was born out in the country near a small town called Alligator, Mississippi.
Yeah.
That's probably 12, 15 miles south of Clarksdale.
Actually born in Alligator, Mississippi.
Alligator, Mississippi. Yes, sir. That was my address. Yes, sir.
Maybe that explains them dogs you hunt.
That might be my problem.
Nah, I'm kidding with you on that. I've never seen a grunt out of anything you've been handling, but no, that's interesting. What year, Morris? You just had a birthday. Was it yesterday or day before?
The 30th of September. I was born in 1944, and I'm working on my last year of the 70s. The next one will be the big 80 mark.
Okay, well, you got me by just a little bit. You're about not quite 2 years older than I am, but I wish I got around like you. You get around through the woods a whole lot better than I do anymore.
Well, I thought I did until a few nights ago, and my buddy, he's just ahead of me pretty good on some of these ditch banks that we hunt on.
I got you. You're talking about that Mississippi Randy Smith.
Yeah, that old boy hunts the black dogs.
That's right.
Randy Smith.
Well, I've got another friend in Pennsylvania named Randy Smith, so I always have to kind of differentiate between the two of them, you know. Both of them are hard coon hunters, I tell you, and it must go along with the name. I don't know, but
maybe.
Well, so anyway, I want to get into what we always enjoy every year, and that's our upcoming trip to White River. But I want to know about this experience that you have. I know you've been coon hunting a long time. Did that start when you were a kid?
Well, I did. I didn't own a dog when I was a teenager, but I had heard dogs treed when I was at my deer camp at night, and I'd get up and go check them with a flashlight and wait on the owners to get there and talk to them. Then I think my first coon hound, I traded 2 beagles for a black and tan female. And that was back, I guess I was about 20 years old. And that's when it started off.
So you go back a ways with the black and tans then? Yes,
sir. Well, that was my first dog, was a black and tan grade female that I traded 2 beagle deer dogs for. Yes, sir.
Well, you know, I, of course, associate you with the English breed 2 ways, I think. Number one, I know that you've been longtime friends with Ed and Calvin and those guys. And, of course, you know, you don't associate Ed Bates with anything but an English dog, or at least I don't. Then your buddy, as you mentioned there, Randy Smith, has been pretty much the black and tan man all along the way, hasn't he?
Well, he started out with some English dogs also.
Okay.
I know he started out, one of the English dogs he had was kind of liked the tree a little bit too much, and he got rid of him, and he went through several. Then he went to some Walker dogs, and he hunted Walker dogs for a while. Then I don't know how or when, but he got off. I think Mr. Tam Young might have had something to do with him getting in that black dog business. Mm-hmm. I think so.
Well, you know, about the time I became friends with Randy was when, you know, we were going to White River, right? Nubbin Moore's responsible for taking me over there the first time. And then Randy came along shortly thereafter. And I don't think I probably did hunt with, he had that good female named Moon Pie Sally. And she placed, I believe, 8th in the World Hunt one year, didn't she?
Yeah, I think so. He still got her. I think she's 11 years old now.
I got
but
you.
He still got her.
Well, she would have been a young dog then, you know, back then. Was. But that rascal always shows up at camp with a coon dog. And if you see how he goes at it, you know that why he's got a coon dog. But I believe you're just about as bad to go to the woods as he is.
we can go through a bunch of them. You just got to go through them to get to find something that suits you. And that's the way Randy is also. He goes through a lot. But he hunts, he's about 11, 12 years younger than me. But he's hunting about every night.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's no substitute for hunting them, is it? No, is there?
I'll agree. I will agree with that.
Sure.
Now.
For sure, and I haven't been guilty of that now for several years. There was a day that I would have said, "Yeah, I'm doing my dogs justice," but now maybe that's why I've kind of had some. We're in that going through stage, with some of these, especially these walkers. But got another one now. I guess hopefully she'll last long enough. We can break her out at White River. Maybe she'll do something, but jury's still out on her too. So But so anyway, you grew up in the country there in Alligator, Mississippi. What county is that?
That'd be Bolivar County.
Bolivar.
Then I moved from Alligator to a sawmill community, a little community called Sheridan, Mississippi, which is west of Clarksdale, about 7 miles, right near the Mississippi River levee. You can see the levee from my house, and that's where I finished my growing up right there. Hunted the hardwoods behind the levee about all my life. Yes.
And people who've never been to that part of the country don't understand what that means to hunt, behind the levee or, that's all river bottom country, tabletop flat, rich black gumbo mud.
Yes, sir, it is.
And big timber and lots of timber. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can hunt all night over there, but most of it's bought up now to big hunting clubs, and you pretty well got to be up in the money to belong to one of them hunting clubs.
Yeah.
I was into one over there, the cheapest one around that I think we had about 7,500 acres in it when I got out of it, because they cut it all over. We had just purchased it, and they cut that thing over, and you couldn't coon hunt it. So I just sold my membership and got out. And I think now the membership is the cheapest one around is about $45,000 just to get in it. I think that's right. And then it'll probably go from there to $500,000 up north of there to get in hunting clubs.
My goodness gracious. I guess we're going back all the way back to when the colonists came to this country. One of the reasons, I think, was to be able to hunt because they couldn't in England, but it was a rich man's game, and it seems like it's getting back to that more and more all the time, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is. You're losing your hunting territory. I've lost like 4 of my places right here close to my house that I had. I've lost 4 of them spots in the last 2-3 years. Just right here at the house. Yes, sir.
Boy, that's a shame. That's a shame. It's such a beautiful part of the country. I had not spent any time in Mississippi, just a little bit up around Corinth and up that way. When I was with PKC, we had the Super Stakes up there at Selmer, Tennessee, and I think it's Selmer. It's upper. Yeah, and I've been up in that northern part a little bit, but Mississippi's an interesting place for sure. And I was just doing some looking around. I kind of like music. I like to listen to music and just about all kinds. But I was looking the other day and I saw a clip on Facebook of Levon Helm. Does that name ring a bell to you?
No, it don't. Not right off.
Okay.
No, sir.
He was a drummer and lead singer for a group called The Band.
No, I remember that. I remember that group.
And
yes,
do you know where he was born?
No, sir.
We're going to jump right across the river over where we hunt every fall. Elaine, right? Arkansas.
Elaine, Arkansas. Yes, sir.
I thought, how in the world did they ever find him in Elaine, Arkansas?
Well, if you would think back, the great man that sang a lot of good country songs, of the great man that passed away, Mr. Charlie Pride.
Absolutely.
I am 16 miles from his hometown of Sledge, Mississippi.
I think of Charlie every time I go, when Nubbin and I drive through Sledge on the way over to the White River. I think of Charlie Pride. What a great singer he was. Man, oh man. At cotton picking Mississippi Delta town.
Yes, that's exactly, and that's what it is. That's, about, I think, 13 miles from me. If you go west on 315, you'll fall right out of the hills, right out into the Delta, and it's just as flat as your kitchen floor then. Yes, sir.
Boy, it is, and it brings to life those lyrics of those songs about the Delta, and you go back to old Johnny Cash, he sang about the Delta, and of course Elvis Presley. We go through Tupelo on the way on that trip too, and Elvis comes to mind. So there's a lot of famous people from around that part of the world.
It is.
And William Faulkner is a writer, a well-known writer that I enjoy reading so much. Yeah, and he's from, his stories are all about up there in northern Mississippi and hunting the big woods. Yeah. That used to be big timber country in there, I guess, years ago.
They did. It was such big timber. They started clearing and cutting, and it's just little patches. And I think that's what's happening to some of your competition hunts, that they're dwindling down from they used to be 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a place to hunt 2 hours now. See?
Yeah. Yeah, they're cutting down to the 90-minute hunt and then the 1 hour hunt. I can remember, and people ask me this a lot of times, why don't I get John Wick on the podcast? And man, I would love to. But John's health has just not been conducive to doing that. But what an impact he has been on our sport, But he was one that didn't like the idea of cutting the hunts from 3 hours back to 2.
Yes, sir.
He said if you're a coon hunter, you ought to want them to be 4 instead of 3.
If you had the room to hunt, that might not be bad.
That's it. If you had the room and the support, you got to keep that guy out there half the night or all night. I learned that at the World Hunt years ago when we started on Wednesday, and those guides and all had to work the next morning, and they still do that at the PKC World Hunt, I'm sure, and to a lesser degree at the UKC. We just don't appreciate those guys that stay up all night or so that we can get out there and have a good time. And can't say enough about that. Well, when did you get your own dogs and kind of strike out as a coon hunter?
I guess about then, about when I was 20 years old, I started getting my own dogs. When I got the black dog, then I don't even remember the first other dogs that I owned after that. But like I said, I had really good places to hunt back then. It wasn't like it is now. It wasn't too much private land. You could just hunt anywhere you wanted to. Now they've got lock gates, fences up. And the deer hunters and turkey hunters, they kind of showing you a little bit, but that's up to them. But
well,
I hunted a few of the hunts when I was younger. I hunted some hunts a good bit, but I can't keep up with them now. I live near a little old town called Tunica, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine named Hal Hamrick, he was a farmer there, nicknamed Blondie. He didn't have to farm during the winter, and he would hunt all night. And I would get home. When I was younger, I would get home in time to take a bath and rest for about 30 minutes and go straight to work. Yes, sir. I've done that several times with Hal Hamrick, riding horses and mules.
I remember that name, seeing his name in the magazines and so forth. Yeah.
He was a hard hunter. Hal was a hard hunter in the winter. He farmed in the summer. Yes, sir.
Well, there was another coon hunter of note from generally that part of the world, I believe, and that was T.C. Jones, the blue tick man.
T.C. Jones, he was down south of me. He's a hillbilly also. He was at Duck Hill, Mississippi. Way down 55 south of me. Yes, sir.
Did you ever hunt with T.C.?
I have. I've hunted with him, and I've hunted in competition hunts with him.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I've watched TC throw his hat on the ground several times and holler, "Judge, if you're going to let me show you that coon, you got to stay with me."
Stay right here in my back pocket, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, TC Jones, when the hunt that night, he said, "Judge, here he is. And the judge would come over, and TC said, "He ain't looking now." So TC would walk to another place. "Here he is, Judge, here he is." His judge would come over. He said, "He's not looking now." And the minute TC threw his hat on the ground, he said, "Judge, if you're going to let me show you this coon, you got to stay with me now."
That judge was hanging tough, wasn't he? He wouldn't go by it.
It was all good. I was laughing. It was good.
Yeah. So many good times, right?
You got so many good times. Them old days. Yes, sir.
Well, we tend to say about these coon dogs, the deader the better. Did you have one from back there in the old days that you really liked or you really remember more than the rest?
I've had a couple, two or three outstanding as all the dogs I've been through. I bought a dog from Hal Hamrick's buddy, a Walker female. Her name was Shoe, and she was narrow-chested. She could run through a cane break. I don't even think she'd make a racket. She was so chicken breasted. But she was a coon treeing machine. Yes, sir. Crowding Billy. Yeah. Crowding Billy on one end and Gans Finisher on the other.
Well, she had the credentials there, both world champions.
She had the credentials. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, Crowding Billy from Arkansas.
I gave a big price for I gave a big price for a Shoe when I bought that dog. That dog cost me $300.
Wow. Man, that's a big bucks, isn't it? That's the big bucks.
Yes, sir.
Well, you got there Buddy Gilbert over in Arkansas with Crowding Billy, and then you got Pride Gann over in Alabama with Finisher.
But no Finisher. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pride also owned the Bean Blossom Buck dog that was a world champion.
Did.
Man, those guys were the stars back in the day, weren't they?
Back in the day, yes, sir, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, I met Buddy. I don't think I ever met Pride Gann, but I did meet Buddy and talk to him several times.
You know, Buddy Gilbert finally got over into an English dog. Because I got some friends here that handle for him. Yes.
Okay.
He did. I forgot the name of the English dog that Buddy had, but he owned a good English dog at one time.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to know. Well, so you got old Shoe. Who else made the honor roll?
I've had some of that Ed Bates stuff from up north. It was good dogs, really good dogs. I have a dog named Shot that was a good dog.
Mm-hmm.
An English dog. He looked a lot Walker dog, but his name was Shot, and I liked that dog. He was a good hound.
Well,
but back then, this was in the age before you even knew how to treat a dog for heartworms, and we were kind of ignorant to the fact on the prevention, and so heartworms killed a lot of our dogs. Yes, sir.
Oh, I bet so. There in that deep South country, you have some mosquitoes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Where I was at in the Delta, yes, sir, they were terrible.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, they were bad.
Well,
they were bad.
I get you. Well, we talked about him a little bit, and he's not here to defend himself, but how did you and Ed Bates get to be friends?
With a friend of mine that passed away in 2007 was Carl Ward. He introduced me to Ed Bates. And how Carl met him may have been in a hunt somewhere, but Ed had wanted to come down and come south hunting. And that's how I got to know Ed. I had a deer camp behind the levee in those big woods over there. We had, at that time, that club was about 9,500 acres. And Ed would come down a couple of times a year. He and Calvin Hayes, and he would bring Scott with him or bring somebody else down hunt with him. And he'd come down every year and hunt with me a couple of times in the wintertime. And that's how I got to know Ed.
Yeah, you mentioned Scott. I noticed online I didn't get to go to the UKC World Hunt this year, but apparently Scott, Ed's son, spoke to the group there, and they there was a lot of good reviews about what he had to say. I remember Scott from my PKC days. He was very much involved in PKC at that time, and really a great guy. And I'm going to have to go back and listen to that talk that he gave at the World Hunt in Ohio. Well, you couldn't talk coon hunting without the mention of Ed Bates back in the early 80s, maybe the late 70s. Anyway, I remember Ed being such a leader within the English Association, especially when any kind of a proposal or whatever came on the floor at English days. Ed would be in the thick of the battle, and he had his views and his positions, and he represented them very well. So, but anyway, that's great to see that Ed and guys like you and are still kicking and still enjoying the sport and all, because it is a young man's game for the most part.
Ed was responsible for a bunch of these young guys that started coon hunting. I think he was. Greg Maynard.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Greg Maynard if you coon hunt.
Oh, with the pro sport ordinance.
He brought Greg Maynard down to the Delta to hunt with me, and Greg was a real young guy. Scott, this hunts the other Walker dogs. He came down to hunt with Ed one time, a couple, and that's how I met him.
Was that Scott Faulkner?
No, that hunts the Walker dogs up in near Ed and them. I got this CRS. I can't remember.
I got it bad. Morris. Yeah, well, at any rate, I always get in trouble when I start naming names, but I forgot. For those of my listeners that listened last week, I struggled to come up with the name of a fellow from Kentucky that was Wayne Caudle's buddy, and they did a lot of lobbying for houndsmen and all, and we called him Red, and I couldn't think of his name on the recording to save me, and Eric Bowling from Kentucky contacted me today and said, I believe you meant Red Caldwell, and I said, yes, absolutely I did. His name was James, and he and Wayne did a lot of lobbying for the houndsmen there in Kentucky. But at our age, Morris, we're allowed that, CRS, that kind of, wear it like a badge of honor.
I think so. Yes. Well, you have no choice, really.
Well, that's
you have
true.
No choice.
That is true. Well, I don't know which way to go here. I want to talk a little bit about our upcoming White River trip, which is something that we all look forward to every year. And I know I particularly look forward to you and Randy when you get off there by yourself in the kitchen.
Right.
There's always some awesome stuff that comes out of that little deal there. But how long have you been coming over, Morris? Do you remember?
I don't know. Randy's the one that invited me to come over, so I've not been going as long as he has.
Right.
Yeah, Randy mentioned it to me to come. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't tell you.
Well, our group,
I don't know how many years.
Yeah, our group's evolved a little bit. The first year I was invited over was 2009, but the water got up that year and we didn't get to go. Nubbin had asked me 2 or 3 times. He said, you need to go, come out to Arkansas with me. And I said, well, I want to. That sounds great. But 2010 was my first year, and when I first got there at camp, Mr. Fred Sanders was still in camp, and Kenneth Raines from up around Mississippi, by Memphis there.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Gary Hayes, Frog Hayes. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of our group at that time. And then I think Randy was the next one to join us. And he came maybe a year or 2 before you came along with him, I believe.
I think so. Yes, sir. He did. Yeah, he did.
Well, and then,
but at any rate, we've got most of our groceries stashed up already. The crappie, We're coming up in November. I've got them well taken care of. Yes, sir.
Man, I tell you what, Morris, I'm not trying to blow your head up here, buddy, but now that is some fine eating as I've ever had in my life. And there's been a few that have slipped in and sampled that, and Murray Reagan from up around Jackson, Tennessee, he sneaked in there a time or two for the fish fries. And
good guy. I like him.
Oh yeah,
I like
absolutely.
Yes,
but man,
we'll cook enough. We're gonna cook enough for the guests if they pop in unexpected. We'll have enough. We got to work on the frog legs a little bit, but they're coming along also.
Well, that's something you added. At first, it was the crappie and the hush puppies and the fries and the coleslaw.
Yes, sir.
Man, we got an old saying back in West Virginia, that'll make you smack your granny, you know?
Yes, sir.
Boy,
the
it's
coon
good.
Hunting brought the frog legs in the first year the coon hunting did, because Randy and I were coon hunting in a duck pond that was drying up. And there was so many bullfrogs in that duck pond drying up that we put our dogs in a dog box. And I started catching frogs with bare hands. And Randy would cut the legs off of them for me and put them in a sack. And that's how that got started.
Well, man, I tell you, they are fine. They are, And we don't usually have any trouble with getting hungry at camp, do we?
No. Come supper time, everybody's hungry. Yes, sir.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. What a great time! I just enjoy that so much, and I'm getting, I'm getting older, and it's getting tougher every year making those long walks to those dogs. Thank goodness we got the 4-wheelers and the side by sides and all. But it's not about that killing coons. It's about just getting together, isn't it?
The camaraderie. Yes, sir. Yes, I enjoy the fellowship. Just having a good time. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I don't have to kill a bunch of coons. I don't, but that's to each his own.
Well, that's me too. And when I was a young man, I probably wanted to be like Ted Nugent, want to whack them and stack them, But anyway, old Nubbin, he kind of keeps count for us. I think he's still got a little bit of that in him. He kind of likes to count them coons. But
yes, sir.
Yeah.
He's looking forward to it. I talked to him a good bit, so he's still looking forward to it also.
Yeah, Nubbin is tough. I think Nubbin's maybe 82 now. And,
I think so. I think he's got 2 or 3 years old.
And he's had some serious hip reconstruction surgery and all that, but he's still out there, buddy, and he's going to go to those trees if he can. He and I kind of prop each other up a little bit and try to encourage each other. He told me last year we were around there by Kansas Lake or something, and we had to go down over the hill a little bit there to the dog's tree, and coming back up, it was a bit of a struggle. And he said, "I gotta quit this stuff," and I said, "No, you ain't gonna quit. Just get your butt on back up there to that side by side. You'll be all right."
You might slow down a little bit, but I ain't no use of quitting.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I won't go till I can't, I guess. See, It's me. I won't hunt as much or as long every night as I used to, but I still want to go.
Well, that's it. Old Toby Keith kind of did that song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was. And it's speaking of Toby. He's been fighting a battle with stomach cancer, and I saw a recording a video of him singing this "Don't Let the Old Man In," and it kind of hit home to me too. We can't let that old man in. If not, we'll have to quit. We'll have, that'll be the end of the game. So we got to keep on keeping on.
I've got a couple of friends that's got that age, and they had to sell out, quit, and sometimes I worry about that. What day it's going to be, but we never know. So we just got to keep on. We got to keep on as long as we can.
Yeah, it kind of sneaks up on you. At least it did me.
It does.
It seemed to me like I was coasting along just fine. I had to laugh the other day when PKC announced this Seniors World Hunt. And they said, well, the entry age, you got to be at least 60 years old. I said, 60 years old? I could walk with any man when I was 60 years old.
You're right. You're right.
I got that by 17 years, man.
Well, I've got one play like me that I had 4 or 5 years ago, and just this year I had a little back problem, so they had to do a little back surgery on me. They corrected that. So other than that, I'm good to go.
Good to go, man. That sounds good.
To go. Yes,
well,
sir.
when we were talking about good dogs a while ago, and we talked a little bit about crossbreds and all, we got to talk about Skeeter. Now, that's been a good one. Jam up, good one. Yes,
She's 11 years old. Yes, sir.
Tell me about Skeeter, how you got her, and what's her story.
I bought her sight unseen because of her breeding. She's a Tequila Sunrise one way and a Michigan Swamp Rooster the other way. I bought her from a boy in Louisiana named Jared Malte. He used to coon hunt hard. Jared did. I guess I'm saying his name right. I see him all the time at the hunt. Still hasn't seen him lately, but he's down in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I bought old Skeeter from him sight unseen as a female, and she was delivered to me to the PKC Winter Classic at Louisville, Mississippi, and then I brought her home from there. I think she was 3 months old when I got her.
But, I didn't realize you'd had her that long. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful
she's
hound.
11 years old. She's 11 now. Yeah.
She's a beautiful hound, red and white spot, red spot, and a coon dog. Accurate coon dog.
Good, accurate coon dog.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Good. I got another one that's taking her place right now, I think. It's a 2-year-old. She is, and she's been going pretty strong for me.
Is that Tootie?
Tootie's a walker dog. Looks like a kicked up walker dog.
Yeah.
She came from a boy out from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I do not recall what the female is, but she's out of River Swamp Crow Dog, and I think he's in Georgia. I'm not sure, but that's what she's out of. I bought her sight unseen.
Yeah.
Met him in Huntsville, Alabama with this boy.
Well, and you're having you've got a knack or a gift for picking these nice pups, and that in today's world out there, there's a lot of dogs, a lot of pups for sale, and they're not cheap anymore.
Not cheap anymore.
No, and but getting one like you said earlier that suits you. That's the key. We do this for fun, but we do it because we love it, and we do it because it's in our blood, I believe. But anyway, but we got to have one that suits us. If not, we're not going to be happy.
Right. That's right. Yeah. It can tree coons. It can run a track and do this, but it's got to have that little knack that you like.
Yeah.
And not every man don't look at a dog the same. I know that. What's good to one man may not be good to another.
Yeah.
That to me is to each his own. Yes, sir.
Well, any tips that you can share with the listeners about how you start a pup like Tootie, or how you started Skeeter, or some of these good dogs that you've shown up with?
Some of them. My buddy over here, Sarah, he's got probably better at Randy starting pups than I am. Now, used to seem like everything I would get my hands on, Steve with tree coons, I could get them going. But now I try to put me a couple of feeders out, start a pup with a drag, maybe a young coon, and bring him home and drag him, let him play with him. Then I may make a drag out of a fresh coon from the pup to tree or something. Then I'll catch me one or two in a live trap, turn them loose here behind the house, and see if they'll run it and tree it, and just go from there.
Yeah, once they do run and tree that live coon, then that's when you start hunting them. Do you hunt them by themselves or with another dog usually?
With another dog. I think me and Randy Smith and Mike Crockett was hunting, riding horses one night in some big woods. The first night that old Tootie treed a coon, and she treed it by herself, split treed out from the other dogs. and that I think she was about 8 months old when she did that. So I ain't been lucky enough to have one of them 4 or 5 month old pups that just treeing every night, but they there. Some of them have them.
They are. You know, we've got a pup now. We picked up my buddy who will be coming out with me this year, named Keston Jesse. You met Keston there at Autumn.
Yes, I met Keston. I did.
Keston's got a real nice dog that he got from Randy Smith. It's out of a Power Pack bred dog of Shane Burden's up in Kentucky. Yeah. But anyway, we've got a puppy here that we're going to. We just picked her up. And she has a little mate in Missouri that is, this dog is now, well, of course, they've slipped past 7 months old now. But I've been watching these videos on Facebook, and this sister has been treeing coons right on and acting like an old dog. And so there are some out there like that. But I think the danger is guys get to thinking they all should be that way. And
that's my problem.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as I said, I want patience. I want it right now. What do you think about it?
I said our breeding, to me, these days, our breeding is better. Our genetics is a little bit better. As far as tree dogs, I don't know about track dogs because to me there's a big difference than a track dog and a tree dog.
Yeah,
I think. But I think the genetics of the tree dogs are a lot better today.
I think
and we
so.
We learn new ways to start a pup nowadays than what we did when I was younger. You never saw anybody catch a coon in a trap to release it to a pup. You just hunted it with an old dog.
Yeah.
And didn't many people hunt a dog by themselves?
No, that's true. That's true. I began as I got older and started messing with the night hunts a little bit and all. I got to liking that dog that got off to itself, Yeah. But that wasn't the way our dogs were. They were, and my buddies from Virginia will come to Michigan every year to hunt with me. They loved the dogs to pack up. They didn't want them to be scattered around all over the country. Yeah. They wanted them to be together, and they were guys that just really enjoyed coon hunting and enjoyed listening to the dogs,
right, and
seeing a coon up a tree. And it was fine with them for them all to be right there together in a wad.
Yeah.
Me, I've always been a little more competitive than that. And, and I'd always try to listen to see which dog was out front on a race and, which one hit that tree the first and all. But I don't know. We're all different. We all have different likes. And,
right.
And that's good that we can have it the way it's like old Burger King used to say. Have it your way.
Is good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir, it is, Steve.
Well, do you have any puppies there now? Since Tootie, she's getting to be an old dog. She's 2, isn't she?
She's 2 years old, 2.5. She's getting old. Yeah. Steve, I don't want a whole lot of people to know this. But my buddy over yonder, Randy Smith, hunts them black dogs.
Yeah.
He's kind of rubbed off on me a little bit.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up.
In my pen right behind me is a 3-month-old puppy that's black.
Black? Oh, they're pretty. They'll get close to you. The black ones are pretty.
Well, I got my next project is going to be this black puppy back here.
Well, I think you'll probably have more help out of Randy because he likes them black ones so well.
He does, but he likes anything that'll treat coons right. I found that out. Yeah. Yes, sir. He'll give credit where credit is due.
Well, we'll get him on there so we don't blow his head up too big. But I tell you, he is a coon hunter, and he always shows up with a coon dog. And Randy likes them when you're there waiting or sitting along or trails there. He's coming by in a hurry, and he's going yonder to his dog back in there somewhere.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And he's going to come back. When he comes back, he's probably going to have 2 or 3 laying on strung up on the dog box. But he's a coon hunter for sure, and a great guy.
Yeah. Well, when it starts getting dark, he and I will check the oil again tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a pretty good place right here in Jones, about the city limits of Batesville. That's private property. It's right up to deer season, and it's got locked gates, but I got keys, and that's where we're hunting tonight.
You fellows are blessed to have that good hunting there. I
know.
And I actually, except for as you said, the camaraderie of it all and all, you probably got as good a hunting as the White River. Just right there.
In some places we do. It's just not big enough to hunt a pack of dogs.
Right.
I've got 800 acres. I can't hunt it now that deer season, bow season started, but the rest of the time I can. It's just patches of hardwood and weed fields scattered. But you about have to have a 4-wheeler to ride around, get around these dogs in there. You can't really carry a cast in there. Be too much walking.
Well, I noticed that there's been a change across the board, and I know you have one. You'll see where I'm going with this here in a minute. To go to the side-by-sides instead of 4-wheelers. Of course, if you've got somebody to hunt with and all, but you and Randy both and hunt off of 4-wheelers. Why do you prefer a 4-wheeler? I know you have a side-by-side as well.
I got both, but my 4-wheeler is easier to get around. It's just a lot easier to get around on that 4-wheeler. Some of the roads over there where we hunted done got so bad that if a side-by-side, you're about to stay stuck in them a lot. So, but don't get me wrong now. I spent 30, 45 minutes winching out night before last, and when I got winched out and went to find Randy, he was winding his winch back up also. But you can't. Some of these woods, my buddy's woods, I can ride through them. I got permission on two different places of private woods to ride through the woods, and you really can't do a side-by-side as you can these 4-wheelers.
Right. Well, mine wasn't running last year. I had to leave it parked at camp, but I think I've got her percolating this year. Right. And I enjoy riding the 4-wheeler too. I mean, it's just something, it's just part of it, part of what I enjoy, about it. And like you say, you can get through those narrow spaces. Yeah. I know one year Jamie Perrin, our buddy there from Alabama, loaned Nubbin and me his Polaris, and he had one of these big ones had 4 tires on the back and 2 in the front, and that was a Cadillac to ride around in. But man, you couldn't get it through some of those trees on those trails, especially where they've washed out and they've cut new trails around and so forth. And it's almost like running a slalom course on a ski slope, getting around through that stuff. But that's all part of the fun of going over there and each year, and man, it's fun. I talked to my wife I said, I'd like to buy a side-by-side, but my goodness, I only use it 5-6 days out of the year. I don't have anywhere down here to ride one. We're all tied up in cattle deer leases and ranches and stuff down here. It's virtually impossible to find a place to hunt unless you go on state land, and then a lot of those won't let you ride 4-wheel or ATVs.
Yeah. So some places you can't ride on them. Yes, sir, it is.
That's right.
It sure is.
Well, I guess we're going to head to the White River a week after Thanksgiving, like we usually do. I think that's the plan, isn't it?
As far as I know, we should show up on a Monday after Thanksgiving. I talked to the man there, and I talked to him. I leave him messages, but he don't call me back as often. But I got a text message last week from him. Said, "Can I call you?" And I texted him back, "Yes, anytime." And I've not heard from him since. But I left him a message, said if I don't hear from you, that we will show up on a Monday following Thanksgiving.
Right.
And so I guess that's going to be our plan, unless I hear something different. Because when I did talk to him, I told him I had friends that was traveling so far that we needed to know ahead because, for the last minute things.
Sure.
So,
well, I get a lot of requests from people saying, I just had one this week, saying, where do you stay? And, at the White River Refuge, because the nearest thing we can find is an hour away. And what I would advise people to do, where we stay is a duck lodge, but we're kind of sandwiched in there between the two seasons. And I think that, that we get pretty much like the only spot that's available there for that particular place. But I would suggest that people contact some of the duck lodges. That's big duck hunting country in there. And
there's another duck lodge down from us a little ways and across the road that I think would be available between the duck seasons.
Well, we stay in St. Charles, Arkansas, so I can just maybe suggest, if you're listening, to try to contact some of those available places. There is a campground there across the road from us. That's where Murray Reagan, we mentioned earlier, he brings his camper in there, and that makes a real nice setup if you've got a camper.
Right.
But anyway, the old White River Refuge, it belongs to all of us. I've had criticism over the years for talking about it, and some maybe the locals think, well, I shouldn't be telling people all over the country about this thing. But, it's a lot of land there, 160,000 acres. And, I just believe that everybody ought to be able to experience that at least once. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. Our buddy Mark Miller was out last year. He said, I'm tired of wallowing around in this mud. Of course, he's a mountain boy from North Carolina, But anyway.
Not the same.
Yeah. But, Morris, we've been at this an hour. I have taken an hour of your life an hour that you'll never get back.
That's okay. I spent a bunch of them. I'm sitting out on the front porch of my hunting shed behind my house.
Okay.
It's cool in the shade, so it's okay.
Well, you got a great place there out in the country. I love it. It's so comfortable, and appreciate all that you've done for me and my buddy Nub, and you've done a lot to help us along the way, and I appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate you taking the time with me today. And
you're welcome.
We'll be looking at about just a little under 2 months away. We'll be
2 months. Yes, sir.
We'll be eating crappie and hush puppies, I hope.
Yeah. There you go. But we'll be in contact before that anyway.
Yes,
sir?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Morris Hardy from Sardis, Mississippi has been our guest today on the Gone to the Dogs podcast. I know that you enjoy it as much as I enjoy seeing Morris every year, and that will be coming up pretty soon. Folks, I want to remind you, if you need anything in the way of dog supplies, there's a lot of good vendors out there. Support your local vendor for sure. And also my good friends out at W Hunting Supply, DUSupply.com, make this podcast possible. I hope that you'll check them out, and they'll treat you right for sure. That's going to wrap it up for this week on the Gone to the Dogs podcast. If somebody asks you, where's Steve Fielder these days? Say, well, get over there maybe and check around Kansas Lake or Indian Bayou or somewhere there. He's with that old swamp rat, Morris Hardy, and they've gone to the dogs. We'll see you, Morris. Take care, brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Take care, my friend.
You bet.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.